everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Joyce, your account manager here at Kaboo. I'm really pleased to introduce you to White.net's Head of Partnerships, Daniel Bianchini. If you have any questions following this webinar, please don't hesitate to send us those by email or on Twitter, both myself or Daniel, or as comments on our blog post or YouTube video. And with that, I'll pass you over to Daniel.
Hi, thank you. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 reasons you lose traffic after website migration and providing some ways of trying to prevent that from happening. Over the past few years, more and more brands are actually going through the website migrations for one reason or another, with mobile becoming a much bigger force in the market. People are having to change providers to enable them to actually display their websites correctly on all different devices. So people are changing CMS providers. Sometimes they're doing the whole site refresh, the new look and feel. That allows them to change architecture. Or they are actually moving domain with a brand move, new URL, all these different types of migration things that are going on at the current state. But what we need to understand is website migrations are not easy. They're not a simple just move across and everything will be hunky-dory. There's a lot of skill that it requires, a lot of things that you need to check and understand. And I mean, this is where you can get some errors. Things doesn't always work, and sometimes it is down to Google to enable you to have a smooth transition. So what I'm going to do over the next few slides is just talk about 5 reasons you lose your traffic after website migration, and hopefully allow you to prevent that from happening. The first point, and one that is something that I find quite hilarious, is that a lot of people have a lack of respect for the redirects. Now, redirects, in my opinion, are a basic requirement of any website migration. If you are moving the architecture, if you're moving domains, then the implementation of a 301 redirect with no jumps, to making sure that they go from current URL to final destination with nothing in between, is something that is a basic requirement. Now, what happens when this doesn't occur is you see a screen like this. Your SEO has a little bit of a heart attack, and you get up to 188,000 errors, if not more. Now, this is a huge issue from any SEO's point of view, and we need to try and stop this from happening from the outset. But how does this happen? There's lots of different reasons why this happens, but just a few that I've mentioned here are, as an SEO, we're brought into the process late. We're brought in last minute. We are told that we're launching a website tomorrow or in the next few days, and that we need to go through the site and provide the redirects. Now, this is an obvious issue where we're just not given enough time to be able to implement those redirects, and therefore the site launches without them. One thing that I've been working on recently, and the development team feel that they have it handled, regardless of how much the conversations and implementations that I want to implement, they say, no, we've got it handled. The client or the key stakeholder trusts them and wants them to push those forward. So they implement and it doesn't work. Incorrect or poor implementation. Now, this could be a combination of either not implementing correctly 302s rather than 301s. They go through jumps, a 301 to a 302 through to a 307. There are lots of different ones, and these are real key issues that we see on a regular basis. So how do we prevent this from happening? I think obviously it's key to get in there very early, understand what's happening from the get-go, be involved in every single stage of the migration process, but also from the web build itself. So you need to really go and make friends with your developer. I think this is a very important thing, is to build a good relationship with the development team. Go and buy them coffee, help them out where you can, because this will not only stand you in good stead for the migration, but other technical changes you may require further down the line. You don't want to be late to the party, so make sure that you go and speak to them as soon as you can. Secondly, you need to do some really thorough research into your current URL structure, what URLs are going to be moved, what URLs are going to be kept, and where they're going. Now, here's just 6 tools that I use: Deep Crawl, Screaming Frog, Search Console, Analytics, Kaboo, and URL Profiler to bring me as much information into the spreadsheet to be able to provide the right one-to-one redirects. Now, if there's a case of using multiple redirects, I can use rules, and this is where I go back to my developer and say, we've got this entire section that's redirecting over here. We would like to create a rule and go from there. That's something where the web developer really comes in handy. And before you go live, test them. Test. That's very key. We did an implementation where we had a test site, and we was able to implement the redirects on that test site to see where they're going to, what status code was, and that provided us some real good information on what we need to achieve. Number 2 is Google has actually taken time to recognize the redirects that we're putting in place. And what I mean by this is the indexation is showing the old domain, but it is redirecting when you click on those links through to the new domain. And this is just a screenshot of something that I've been working on, where the speed of decline has reduced 3 weeks after the redirect implementation. And the indexation has matched that by not going up as quickly as we'd expect. All these URLs are one-to-one redirecting correctly, so it's very frustrating that after a 2-month period that Google is not indexing anywhere near as quickly as we'd expect. However, when we check like the visibility report using search metrics, we can see that the migration has actually seen the right visibility levels and has matched that of the previous domain. So, but digging in further and looking at this in more detail, just because the visibility levels are correct, it doesn't necessarily mean that the positioning is the same. So we may have a lot of keywords that were no longer on page 1, and maybe page 2, page 3. That's helping this score go back to where we'd expect. So don't take this on face value, dig into this information to understand what's really happened. So how do we prevent this from happening? This is one of those times where actually we're in the hands of Google. We're waiting for them to recrawl the website and reflect this in their index. I would, however, suggest that you do the following to help as much as possible. You use the Google Search Console web address tool to change the address to the new URL. Upload your new XML sitemaps to both the old account and to the new account. Therefore, Google can see that the redirects are happening from the old domain to the new domain. Regularly review the XML sitemap for slow indexation sections. You may have a sitemap index that splits out your website into certain categories. Now, you can then see which of those categories are indexing quicker or not, and pinpoint those that are not, and then use the Fetch as Google feature to try and speed up that process. Putting in key pages from those particular categories to try and speed up the way that Google sees that section and to improve the indexation there. Number 3, removal of pages from the website. So what happens when you go through a migration? It provides good opportunity for either the marketers, the board, the web development team to change the website architecture, improve the user journey, and remove archaic content and something that's generally removed are blog posts that are way back when there was maybe 200 words big, and they can get removed pretty quickly. Also, at this stage, people generally remove content due to minimal conversions, and I want to take you through a fictitious conversation about somebody doing that and the impact that it had. So the client comes and says, I'm going to remove X pages during the migration as they're not converting. The agencies come back and said, by doing so, you're going to lose X% of traffic across all channels with the likelihood of losing organic visibility, which in turn will affect the conversion. But he's fine with that. They're not converting directly, and therefore the traffic is not qualified. But this will also have an impact on your assisted conversions. I would suggest that we combine these pages where possible. And then finally, the client comes back and says, I understand, but I'm going ahead. Now, I've seen this conversation happen several times over my career, and one that never really ends very well. So what happened was this. You can see that by removing all of these pages, that this particular website took a massive dip in their search visibility. They did then go on to reinstate that traffic and get it back through re-implementing those traffics, but that's the big thing that they lost there. So the conversation continues. The client come back and say, we've lost lots of traffic and the board are going nuts. And the SEO is going, well, how are the conversions? Down. What how's going on? And this is just a conversation, like I said, we see quite a lot, and it's something that you need to try and prevent where possible. And to do that, it's all about the research of understanding what you are removing from the website, what impact on the key metrics, such as your conversion, such as your traffic, is going to take effect by removing said number of pages. I mean, what impact does it have on search engine visibility? Are there alternative solutions to removing all of this traffic, or or can you just keep them as they are? Do you really need to remove them? And try and provide a really good argument of what's best and why this needs to happen. And finally, just make a note of whose decision it was. Implement that into your analytics, just so that you've got a recognition of when it was done, what was taken away, just so that you can always refer back to it to make sure it's working. This one's pretty much a basic one. You want to block crawlers through robots.txt and no index tags, but what you see very often in the search engines are this type of thing, where a staging site is being crawled. They haven't gone through and add the robots.txt, they haven't added a no index tag, they haven't gone above and beyond, which I would generally do, and add login details, all that stuff, so nobody can actually see this without an IP restriction. I mean, go away now and look. I'm sure you can just find lots of different staging sites in Google by just typing in a few of these queries. Just put site : add in the domain, in URL : staging . Or the same with dev . or UAT . All of these different things actually are being indexed within the search engine, and that's not a very good experience from a user's perspective. But I digress, and more importantly, we need to understand how this loses your traffic. Well, if the standard practice has been followed, you should not see any of the above that I've just talked about. You shouldn't see any of your staging sites in the index, and you'd have added both the disallow and the meta no index tag to every single page before a search engine get to it. Therefore, it wouldn't be indexed at all. But the issue arises when you move the website from the development to a live environment, and it's at this stage that small little details such as these get missed, and the disallow command, as shown here, is left within the robots.txt, therefore not allowing a search engine to crawl the website, not allowing the search engine to index the website. And if these tags are not removed on launch, then there's going to be a bit of trouble, and your meta descriptions will reflect this within the search engine, as you would have seen in the previous slides. So how do we prevent this? And this is a very simple one. I don't need to tell you. Just check your robots.txt and no index on launch. A good way of doing this is just to run a crawl using Screaming Frog and just see how many no index tags are on the site at launch. Also type into the URL domain /robots.txt to check out on the disallow. All of this sort of stuff can be improved and ensured that you are not doing something silly and not letting robots crawl your website. Finally, lost all the traffic. So sometimes you go to the migration day and you see websites that happen like this, and people are going mental. What the hell is going on? Why have we got no traffic? And there's basic mistakes that are being made here by not adding your analytics code. I mean, simple things like that. And unless you are specific about moving your analytics code across, sometimes developers just don't follow that instruction of going outside of the box and moving it. Sometimes they will just follow the process of taking stuff across and not implementing analytics code. So how do we prevent it? And there's two options in my mind. I would suggest that you use Google Tag Manager and you have this implemented throughout the website. And the first thing we'll do is to ensure that the GA code is within GTM, but it's not published whilst on your staging environment. Now, when you go live, you instantly publish GTM tag on launch, and that becomes one of your checks that you do when you go through the website migration and the launch process as part of your process. Now, this is probably the simplest way to do it, but I mean that's one way. The second way, and my preferred method, is I'm keen that all my tracking is in place before the website is launched, and therefore I want to test events, goals, e-commerce if applicable. But I don't want any of that skewing my live data. So what I would do is the following. I would create a GA account specifically for the staging environment, or use an existing view and filter that removes any of the live information away. I then publish the tag and use that as a test profile to allow me to make sure that my goals are working, my events are working, e-commerce is being tracked correctly if required. And then once happy and on launch, I will remove the test tag and implement the live account details again, just to make sure that I have everything live in unskewed data on my live accounts. And at that time, I'll also annotate in GA to highlight that the website has been changed. Therefore, when I move back through my data sets over a period of time, I can see when the website was launched, when new analytics was implemented, and what those changes were. And that's it. Those are the 5 things that I see quite often that I wanted to talk to you about today. Hopefully, you can take some things away from that if you ever get into those situations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That was great. And as I said before at the beginning of this webinar, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to either tweet us at calq or Daniel on his Twitter. You'll see the tag throughout or just there on that final slide. And we hope to send through the other webinars to you soon.